Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dach, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star in here. He's back in action tomorrow night. Mike Johnson will join us. We'll start looking ahead to that. Austin Matthews skating today. Doesn't seem like he'll play tomorrow. Though Craig Berube kind of was like, if he's ready to play, he'll play. Kind of, is that your read on Berube's statement today?
I found that interesting.
Why would he be with those guys? He was with that regular line. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting, Dach, the way Berube sort of phrased it. He said, when a player comes to me and says he's ready to play, that's when I put him out there. In other words, I'm putting it on Austin. He's been over in Germany. He's been day-to-day for how many days? It's on him.
When he's ready to go, play. I'm not going to take you out of the lineup and bubble wrap you and say you're not going. Well, that comment means what it means, but the player said he might need another day or two. So I wouldn't be holding my breath if Matthews plays tomorrow, but it's a possibility. He could. He's taking a trip.
It doesn't.
I don't think he's going to play tomorrow. I think he'll play Saturday in Tampa. But he was back. He was on a different line than Mitch Marner tonight. Johnny will comment on that. There was a lot of games in the NHL actually last night. Winnipeg winning again. Connor Hellebuyck was unbelievable. That first period, how many shots did he face last night? It was crazy. And we've had this MVP chat. It happens, spontaneously over the course of the season. I'm not sure who's in the leading position right now. Who is the pace car? Is it McKinnon? Is it Kaprizov?
No, it's Hellebuyck.
You think Hellebuck's the number one guy?
I think it's a Hasek type season. If you look at the depth, they don't have the star power. As good a player as Mark Scheifele is, do you consider Mark Scheifele the MVP right now?
No.
He's the alpha dog on that team as far as star power. It's a Hasek season, man. Remember those season Hasek would be the MVP and the Vezina winner?
Yeah.
This could be Hellebuck's year to do it. If they continue and have an outrageous record and he's the guy getting it done back there, he is the front runner for MVP. I don't think there's even a question.
Okay. I like it, man.
Great take, Dach.
That's a bold statement. I like it.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think we sell goalies short because we don't often put them in the conversation.
Nunes is right. They're the most important position player in the game, and if you don't have it, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. And he brings it every night, and they got the best record in the league. How could he not be the MVP favorite as of right now?
Well, again,
the only thing though, Dach, is I think the one thing that goes against them is
they play less.
Well, no, that he hasn't come up with it in the big games, like in the playoffs, right? He hasn't.
But that shouldn't affect the Hart Trophy.
I know, but I think it does, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
You think playoff narratives affect people's view as far as voting and that type of stuff?
Has to a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, if you're not a proven guy, it's much easier to win the Hart Trophy if you're a proven playoff performer than if you're not. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I'm on FanDuel right now. Let me test you guys, all right? Who do you think has the best odds to win the MVP? Who's
Nathan McKinnon.
Not Nathan McKinnon. He is third at plus 380.
McDavid.
Connor McDavid is at number one at plus 280.
And probably Draisaitl at 2.
Kaprizov at 2. Okay. I think that's reasonable. Kaprizov's been very good. Kucherov at 4, plus 650. Kucherov was unbelievable. And last night, they pumped Colorado. We got to get to that momentarily. Jack Eichel at 5. Eichel's been really good and consistent and healthy. He's putting up numbers. Hellebuyck is 6th at plus 2,000.
20-1.
You can get him at 20-1 right now.
Hayes, you better. Are you putting something down as we speak?
You know what's wild is number 7 is your boy Marty down in Carolina.
Okay.
Marty Necas, who's
league leader in points,
leading the league in points. That's how good he's been. But according to FanDuel, Hellebuyck is 20-1 odds. And yet he's been phenomenal. He was great last night. But it has been a team effort, I would say, in Winnipeg. He's the alpha dog. He's their best player. But everybody's scoring. Last night, again, it was Niederreiter and Lowry gets on the board. And they have depth scoring throughout their lineup. Defensively, they've been very strong. Their metrics are outstanding. But, I like that, man. Hellebuyck should be the standalone favorite to win the Hart.
Over Kaprizov.
Over Kaprizov, McDavid, everybody. Here's Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. What do you make of that statement? Hellebuyck should be the clear-cut favorite to win the Hart.
So I generally don't like goalies for the Hart because you can make the case whoever the best goalie is every single year they should win the Hart. But unless he's so exceptionally good, like Carey Price's year, Dominic Hasek's years, like I get it. And Hellebuyck is entering that kind of territory. So I don't know, stand alone, but you can convince me he could be the favorite, especially if Winnipeg has the kind of year where they are the President's Trophy winning team as well, and he is clearly their best player, leading to the best record in the league. Yeah, I mean, there is some merit behind that, but it's just tricky because in many ways the Vezina is like the Hart Trophy because, the nature of the position, but last night's game was crazy. He was so
Johnny,
good.
I'm so glad you said that because I thought for sure you were going to say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, pal.
Well, it's pretty high bar if I'm going to say that with you. So.
I really appreciate it, bud.
Listen.
They're in historical territory, so let's credit where credit's due. I don't think it probably will regress somewhat somehow, but right now you could make the case.
Well, what would you sign off on more? Because the argument you made, I think, has applied to voting. And we're lucky Noodles is in here because his head would be exploding. He hates the fact that the goalies can't be included in this because they have their own award. His argument is, well, forwards have the Rocket. They have the Art Ross. It's always theirs. They have the Selke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, there are awards that are very specific to forwards. But what would you feel more comfortable with? A goalie winning the Hart or a defenseman winning the Hart?
I mean, I would feel more comfortable, I suppose, if the defenseman was deserving of it because he's a positional player. Like goalies, it's like pitchers winning the MVP. It's just such a different position. It's not like the other stuff. So to compare, it's apples and oranges. But, I mean, the likelihood of a defenseman winning it is not as great as a goaltender. The goaltender is, every year, whoever wins the Vezina, you could make an easy case. It's not even hard. You can make an easy case that they should get the Hart Trophy. Based on the impact they have on every game that they play. But so I guess I'm saying both things. I guess a positional skater I'm more comfortable with, but I would probably make an easier case for a goaltender than even a defenseman.
All right, Johnny, if you're putting in your Hart ballot tonight, and I don't know how we stumbled across Hart Trophy takes on November 26th, where is Mitch Marner on your list?
He's not on it. I mean, how deep does the list go?
I don't know. Is he in the top 10?
People?
Is he in the top 10? He's not in the top 10.
I don't think so, no.
No?
No, he's been incredible. He's been incredible. No doubt. I don't want to diminish what he's doing.
No, I understand that.
What did he have, 8 goals? He's 13th in the league in scoring. Would you have Jesper Bratt ahead of him?
No,
He's
but
got many points.
Jack Hughes has been playing every single night. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, like when McDavid went down, my thought was Draisaitl's winning the Hart, McDavid's down. I don't think we've played that game with Mitch or Willie. Like either of them. Like Matthews has missed a lot of time, and look how well these two have played without their best player. That should account for something. I don't know if I'd have him in my top 10 either. I haven't put that list together. But I think Marner should be, he's worthy of a conversation based on how he's played with their best player out of the lineup.
I don't want to diminish. He's been amazing. And I can see it and I can feel it in between the benches. Like you can sense when he is taking over a game, when he does something special, the middle of the second period or beginning of the second period of the other game. I'm like, that's it. He's taking over. You can sense it. You can feel it. And that's not easy to do whether Austin is there or not. And he's done it several times at both ends of the rink, both offensively and defensively, with Matthews and several other players out of the lineup. So full credit. He's been amazing. He would be in my top 6 wingers, so like top 3 All-Star teams. He probably would make in that category in some capacity. I'd have to look through all the numbers, but MVP is tough. You talk about goaltenders, Makar, like Dylan Strome would have to be ahead of him. It would be tricky to get him inside the top 10, but that doesn't take away from how great he's doing and the fact that whenever Austin Matthews comes back, if it's tomorrow night or if it's on Saturday, I don't think Austin Matthews should play with Mitch Marner right now. Like I think he's got to keep that Tavares-Marner connection together and let Matthews do whatever he wants with Willie Nylander or whoever else plays with them. He's played so well, it's almost a benefit. Split them up, and now you have 2 lines that'll be drive and play. Yeah, and
it feels as if that's going to be the case based on what we saw at practice today. And I think I totally agree. I think most people have been clamoring for that within Leafs Nation. Like Marner and Matthews, for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to click. Doesn't feel natural.
Babcock was right all those years ago.
Babcock had it right.
Babcock was right.
Babcock was right. Hashtag.
Things we did not think we were going to hear today. I don't know if I would agree that they don't work, but I don't, like, they're so good, but maybe is the team better with them apart? And historically, I don't want to go too far down the number line. Matthews and Nylander historically is better than Matthews and Marner. So as good as Matthews and Marner could be, history will show that Matthews and Nylander can also be pretty exceptional.
Maybe it's as simple as Mitch works better. Like, he works harder when he's with John Tavares, because it's like, I'm not just going to go out there for a 3-on-3 thing with Austin Matthews and we're going to screw around and we're going to play keep away and throw saucer passes. I'm going to work my ass off. Like the other night, that game against Utah, in the second period, Mitch started working and he took over the hockey game. Like, it was that simple. It was not a – obviously the stuff he does looks fancy, but he worked and he took over the game. That's what he does.
Yeah, when he skates and he gets a puck on his stick and he can get it back defensively, that's exactly what was going on in the second period. And they're as great as Mitch Marner is, there's always going to be a slight element of deference to another great player. You know, where you maybe Austin Matthews can go get the puck back. Austin Matthews can draw a guy, and I can just look for open ice. I don't have to support it so closely. These kind of things, not that you're loafing, but you're just like, you're letting him do some of the work. Whereas when he's not with him, more of that work falls to Mitch Marner, and he's more than capable of doing it. And when he does, and the puck's on his stick, great things happen from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he's been awesome. Willie, he hasn't been as dominant, but what's Willie? 2 goals off the league lead? What more do you want from your goal scorer to be amongst the league leaders in goal scoring? They've done everything that the Leafs could ask for in the absence of Matthews and whatever other players are not playing.
Well, Johnny, when you try to explain why they play as well as they play without Matthews, whatever it's been, 60-plus games throughout his career, they're on a 110-point pace or something crazy, and they're now 7-1 in this latest stretch. I mean, how much of it do you think is just, when Matthews isn't there, Marner says, I'm going to shoot. Like, we've heard Berube say he's shooting more. He's got goals. I mean, how much of it is just, I'm going to be more aggressive. It's about me creating this.
I mean, that might factor into Mitch being more inclined to shoot, but that doesn't make sense, maybe not the whole team. Like, I think at first it's about when Matthews goes out, the team pays more attention to detail because the guy that allows you to win games when you don't isn't playing, right? They are one of the guys. So everyone buckles down a little bit more defensive, a little bit more attentive, and it works. I would imagine if you look at the save percentage, when Austin Matthews is not playing, it's probably through the roof high. Some of that's luck, but some of that is guys playing more defensive-minded. Now, I don't want to rain on anyone's like they've done exactly what you want them to do. They're good defensively, the penalty kill, the goaltending, expected goals, all that. I'm not going to act like the offense has been great guns without Austin Matthews. It hasn't been. It hasn't had to be because they've been playing defense so well and the goalies have been so excellent. But it's not like they've been scoring a bunch of goals at 5-on-5. They haven't. They don't give up any, but they don't score any. And I think a healthy Matthews plugging back into the lineup with this kind of attention to detail and physicality, if they can maintain it, then you're on to something. Then the team becomes, wait a second, let's look how good this team actually is.
Well, in terms of what these 2 games mean at the end of November, at Florida tomorrow, at Tampa on Saturday, who does this mean more for? I mean, is it the Leafs? Would it be? I wouldn't say it's the Panthers. I don't think they care about anything right now. They're not playing that well. I mean, they do have to get going. They lost again last night, but I think they're pretty comfortable in who they are. Tampa's, again, they won big last night. They're kind of going through a transition. Stamkos's not there anymore, et cetera. What does this week mean for the Leafs and I guess for the division?
So I guess I would say it means the most to the team that's last in the standings amongst the 3, right? That's Tampa, the team that's furthest down. Now, you could argue, or the Leafs is important because if they were to win both these games, all of a sudden you stretch a lead out to 4, 6, 7 points. That's getting to be significant at this point in the season. And they have a chance to do that if they're able to run the table into Florida and into Tampa. I don't think Florida cares, if we don't beat the Leafs, they're playing well, that's a problem for us. I don't think Tampa cares that we don't beat the Leafs. They're playing well. That's a problem for us. And I don't even think the Leafs care that much. Oh, defending champs, we didn't beat them. That's a problem for us. The reason why it's important in the standings for all teams for obvious reasons, and maybe on some level for the Leafs, because when Austin Matthews comes back to the lineups, whether it's tomorrow or Saturday, what does that do to what they've done over the last 3 weeks? That's why it feels important to Toronto. Not so much the standings, but like, how does Austin Matthews fit back into this great run they're on, and can they keep it going with it?
Johnny, what would you do with some of the young, like, would you do anything, I don't know if it's bold, but some of the young guys that have come up, and I know there's money involved in waivers and caps, but is there anybody that you would say you're going to keep you're being put in that lineup?
There's only one, and that's Fraser Minten, and that is as much because of the overwhelming need for a player to play what he ideally will play, and that's third line center. And so I think, unfortunately, for Grebenkin and for Steves and for Nylander, as bodies get back, they go down. The one guy that I think hangs longer is Minten, because if he can play third line center behind Tavares, behind Matthews, with decent players and be responsible, that sort of alleviates some roster pressure that they have been feeling since day one at camp when they tried William Nylander for 3 days to try to solve the same problem. So I think Minten's the guy, and he looks responsible. I don't know if he can drive a line, but maybe if you get a Domi down there and Yarncroke comes back and different bodies around him, he might not have to be sort of the guy who makes it go offensively. But defensively, face-off circle, which he's been decent at in his few games, that's the guy who would probably get a longer look just because of positional need.
No doubt about it, Johnny. The positional need is real, which is why we're burying the lead here. I know you probably know that Hayes shook the foundations of hockey Twitter yesterday, 3+ months before the trade deadline. I think it's a record, with the idea that, hey, there's a little number 87 in a really desperate town called Pittsburgh that could really look good, filling out the center depth in a place called Toronto. What do you make of it?
I mean, of course, it makes a lot of sense, and I know it's. Hey, here we go. Yeah. And he's older, but the reality of Toronto is they have only a couple more years with this group where their window is at its greatest. So I don't care if they all get old at the same time. Their window is only 2 years plus, maybe. So he'll be there for that entirety. So that, yes, give me Crosby. And give me the roster with Crosby on it, and I'm like, that team can go into Florida. That team can take on Carolina. That team can beat the Rangers. Mm-hmm. I can buy all that. What am I taking off the lineup? This is the problem. Everyone likes the addition. What is the subtraction? And I watched Noodles pour some cold water on the proposal.
Yes. He hung his arms on the top of the stall and took a doozy.
Yes. So... And I was thinking, if I'm Toronto, if you're actually going to try to make this sort of offer, and Wall might be one of them because, they do need a goaltender in Pittsburgh, but I'd be inclined, okay, Ethan Cowan first and Wall. So essentially your starting lineup is not touched from game one of the playoffs. If Stolarz is the starter, which he then would become. And I don't want to be part of Jari's contract. That would be a disaster.
No, can't do it.
I can't have that. Financially, it just won't work that way. So... I like the idea. Would Sid want to go to Toronto? Would Sid want to play in Canada? Would Kyle Dubas want to work with Toronto? I have no idea the answer to any of these questions, but if it leaks out, and I'm sure it will, if Sid opens his mind to going somewhere else at some point this year, there will be a free-for-all in about a dozen markets to go get him. They'll want him in Colorado, of course, and he might want, Hayes, I heard you poo-pooing the idea of Colorado, but he probably wants to go play with Nate McKinnon. That would probably be pretty cool for him. And they're a really good team. Carey would Florida somehow. Vegas, obviously, would.
Whatever team's got to come up with a deal, Johnny. Dubas is not going to say, okay, we're going to facilitate it, but we're not just giving you away.
Well, but if I have full control and you want to give me away, you got to send me where I want to go. That's the reality.
I guess.
And Pittsburgh is in that jam-o where any trade is probably not any trade is a good trade, but any trade is going to help get them going where they need to go. So If Sid is okay with going to only 3 teams, then you work on those 3 teams, and that's it. And even if the deal might be better with other ones, you're not going to get to go to the other ones. And it's such an iconic player. He's got the PR machine. If they don't try to do right by him, if they don't try to send him to the team he wants, that's a terrible look for the organization, and they don't want that either. So there is some pressure and a reality that he could, if it was, say it was Toronto, and he's like, I want to go to Toronto. Then Kyle Dubas would say, okay, then I guess I have to make it work in Toronto and nowhere else. And wouldn't that be a fun situation for the Leafs to find themselves
it'd be
in?
incredible. And that was my point, is if you're the Leafs and it becomes clear, Sid, he doesn't want to do Pitt anymore. That's where the Leafs have to be in the front of the line. They have to be because of the window.
Too far.
It has to happen. It has to happen. You have to do it. Don't go noodles on us now. Don't you start.
Is the voice of reason? What is going on here?
Yeah, God, you should have heard this guy yesterday.
I just think like you've gotten to a point where you're expecting the deal.
I'm not expecting anything. I'm expecting him to finish his career in Pittsburgh. I think that's a reasonable expectation.
I agree.
But if he continues to look, it is a dumpster fire in Pittsburgh. It is a disaster. Terrible. And guess what? It's going to get worse.
Yes,
not getting
it ain't
better.
Gonna get better.
It's going to get worse. So I'm banking on Sid looking around and saying, I can't do this anymore. And when that becomes a reality, Montreal's not calling him. Calgary's not calling. You know, there's certain teams in the league, they're like, we're not calling. We don't have the assets and we're not in a position to win. We're not desperate. There's like 4 or 5 teams in the league. And the Leafs would be one of them where you'd say, like, obviously this would make sense to us. There you go.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, great. But I would say this, the biggest hurdle is Sid leaving Pittsburgh, number one.
Yes.
The next biggest hurdle, and I think it's the monumental one, is him wanting to go to Toronto. Because that's a complete, we have no idea if it, and then the least difficult hurdle is actually doing the deal, which tells you how unlikely the deal is to happen. So but every good team will be sort of playing armchair GM. Can we make this happen? Can we convince him to want to come here? Because he's still so good, and he would be a difference-making player on a lot of teams.
So we're chatting with Mike Johnson. Dave Feschuk, Jeff O'Neill had explosive comments last hour about Macklin Celebrini and my boy Connor Bedard. All right, we asked a question.
Explosive comments.
Is there a chance Celebrini is a better player than Bedard? Is there a chance? And Owen and Feschuk believe that there could be a chance. Where do you stand on that?
100% there's a chance he could be a better player.
Stop it.
Thank you, John.
I'm gonna split parse
That's
words
an
here.
NHL analyst right there, a guy with a brain.
Because you can be a better scorer, but not a better player, right? And I think when Bedard is at his best, he probably will still be a better scorer than Celebrini, but Celebrini might be a better player than Bedard. More well-rounded, he's stronger, he's a better skater, no doubt, a better skater than Bedard is. I think Bedard will score more goals. I know it doesn't look that way right now as Celebrini is snapping no-look snappers to the top corner, but when you guys watch the highlight of Celebrini last night and so far this year, you know what it reminds me of? Connor Bedard from last year. Like that kind of creativity and youthful exuberance and trying guys one-on-one and sniping shots in top corners. We saw this out of Bedard last year, and it's gone away this year because it's not working well for him. But I could see absolutely, like, I don't know if the Kane-Taves comparison is relative, but could Bedard beat Kane and could Celebrini beat Taves? It's in that sort of vein. And then you could have a discussion who's better because Celebrini probably will have a more well-rounded game when it's all said and done.
Okay.
Well,
right,
Johnny,
we'll see, man.
You talk about, that's what I said, is that I would never sell Celebrini's ceiling short when he's 18 years old. He's got a work ethic. He's the athlete he is. He's an incredible kid. So that's why there's always a chance he could be better. But the thing I said was wait till you've played on a last-place team for a little longer before you start judging the kid, right? Like, Bedard's been through it, right? And the Blackhawks aren't getting out of the basement anytime soon, and that's got to wear on you.
I've played on a couple times I've been on maybe the worst team in the league, and it is a miserable existence. And when you're supposed to be the guy who's turning that around, and you're supposed to be the guy who's scoring 40 and getting 100 and playing for Canada, and none of that's happening, and you can't win a faceoff. He's like 28% on, like, a lot of stuff going on there. It's miserable, and it does suck the joy out of the game. And right now, when you watch Connor Bedard talk, he's not having fun, even though he's in the NHL and all the rest of it. So I'm with you, Fast. Like, but maybe San Jose never gets that bad. Like, San Jose is ahead of Chicago in the standings right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they just, never bottom out, because there's a big difference in how 74 points feel, which might be second or third last in the conference, and what 60 points feel like as a team. Like, it's a massive sort of psychological difference. And right now it feels like Bedard could be in the running for another year of 60. And if Celebrini steps right into 74, 76, that's not the same, and that will help Celebrini going forward.
Yeah, it's a big difference. What do you think Miles Wood was thinking last night after he broke his stick and the blade hit Bednar right in the head on his way into the room last night?
I wonder if Bednar's first instinct was to run and grab him. Like, what the?
Yeah.
Because Miles Wood, he runs hot, and he's good for a couple fallacious boarding penalties a year, right? Like, he gets on tilt and out of control. I'm sure he saw that back and like, I'm not playing the rest of the game.
That had heat on it, Johnny, coming back.
And splinters, you know what those graphite splinters are like to get out of your forehead?
Oh, yeah.
Thank God Bedard, or
Bednar.
Bednar has got such a great head of hair. That would stop him from getting hit, but man, can you imagine doing that to Pat Quinn?
Oh,
I really can't. I really can't.
I really cannot.
Yeah. Like, Pat, what would his reaction be if you broke your stick and it came back and hit him right in the face? Like, would Pat, he wouldn't grab you, I don't think, but would you, like, what would the reaction be? What would that look like?
Well, first of all, I've seen him get hit in the head with a puck during the game, and he just grabs his eye and he's like, ah! So it wouldn't be like, Bednar was kind of like, I don't want to show anyone that this hurt. I think Pat would make a scene. Like, he would throw his gum, and it would just be a goon show.
You would hear about it the entire intermission. The intermission would be lost. If you did that on the way out after a period, intermission would just write it off, because the whole time it's him complaining and cursing at you for your stupidity, which would probably be warranted at that point.
That would be tough, man. Like, Pat Quinn's post-game after people saw that would be so funny.
Can you imagine coming to talk to you after the game and you're the player? Oh, my word.
That's
nightmare fuel.
That is nightmare fuel. Like, that's in the modern game, the PR staff would be like, you're not talking to the media today. You're out.
That's it.
Back in the day, swing the doors open, everyone's there. Hey, Miles, quick word with you. Can we get you on the record as to why you almost took out Bednar's eye with your stick? Want to give me a quick quote on that? Anyway. All right, Johnny. Good stuff. We'll do it later in the week.
All right, more fuel to Crosby to Toronto.
Yes.
Brought to you by Bryan Hayes Fire.
You know it, man. I'm working on a different angle.
Hayes.
I'm working on different angles daily. I'll have more for you later in the week.
I cannot wait.
Okay. Thanks, Johnny.
All right.
Mike Johnson joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com.
You know you're going to start getting, like, Pittsburgh guys saying the dummy up in Canada type stuff, right?
Not my concern. I am not. What's my famous saying? Nobody cares what people in Pittsburgh say. I'm not worried about it. Listen, they have more bigger fish to fry than what I'm saying about Sid and hypothetical trades. I mean, if you're covering that team, what do you expect people outside of Pittsburgh to be saying?
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect? It's a disaster.
And to your point, Hayes, like, now there'll be people that would be sad that Sidney Crosby wouldn't be wearing a Pittsburgh uniform for his entire career. And that's a sentimental thing, and I understand it, but it would be the best thing for Kyle Dubas to hear.
Yes.
Sidney Crosby wants out.
Let me rip the Band-Aid off.
And you can just liquidate the whole place. The only reason they kept all those guys together and brought in Karlsson and tried to add to the veteran core that won Stanley Cups is because Crosby wanted it.
Right.
That's the reason.
And my initial point that I made, a year ago when I said get him out, it wasn't the Leafs. Like, put the Leafs aside. It is in the best interest of the NHL to get him out. I firmly believe that. Do you know how great it would be to see him go what that trade would look like, the anticipation, the reaction
and
to it?
Crushed and nobody in the building.
Exactly.
What kind of look is that? It would be
and nobody
so
cares
much
about
hype
Pittsburgh up here. Yeah, there you go. You just had that in the tank. That's amazing. But even seeing him skate out in a different jersey, like, remember when Ray Bourque did it?
Yeah.
It was weird, man. It was an adjustment, yet it became one of the great stories in NHL history. Sid's different because he's won his cups. But Bourque going there, playing multiple years and winning and hoisting the cup, that's one of the great pictures, like still shots in sports history, is Ray Bourque achieving that. And it sucked for people in Boston. I understand that. It sucked. But you had 20 years with Ray Bourque. And you gave it a shot, and he's an all-time Bruin, and he'll always be a Bruin.
Yeah,
You're right, man. That was damn cool seeing Raymond Bourque win the Cup in Colorado.
As cool as it could get.
Yeah.
And, again, Sid's won his cups. He's won everything. So it's not about chasing a cup, but it's about what that would look like and the idea of him being in the mix. Like teeing up, like forget, again, where he goes. Second round, Sid's playing, how good he looked in the first round. Third, right, Cup final, Sid's in the Cup final.
Well,
what that does for the NHL media world.
And how nice would it be in terms of a bookend on a career? At the moment, Ovi's going to be breaking Gretzky's record.
Mm-hmm.
This guy that had this incredible synonymous relationship, the Ovi-Crosby show. If Crosby's irrelevant during that time, playing on a team that's going nowhere in a building of people booing, what does that do?
That's a petty angle to it. That's like Drake and Kendrick Lamar. I'm going to announce this while you're announcing that. But like Sid saying, I can't let Ovi take the spotlight here. That's a story, man. Because Ovi, it would be different with Ovi if they were awful, but he'd still have the Gretzky chase. But they're a good team.
They're going to make the playoffs.
Washington won again last night. Like in
Florida.
Florida. Yeah, like they are legit, man. Like they are playing very well. So he is going to be a relevant player all year because of the goal scoring pursuit and because of the team he plays on. Sid, the team is just clouding everything because it's so bad down in Pittsburgh. Pierre LeBrun in half an hour. I'm not going to ask him about Sid. I think should we ask? I don't know if we go down that road with Pierre.
I just want you got to throw him one lob ball and say, is it 100% that he is willing to ride it out with the Pens?
Okay,
that's all you got to do.
I'll ask that question. We'll get to that with Pierre and Jack Armstrong coming up on the Raptors losing again tonight. They still have not won on the road. Yet they're going to New Orleans, and New Orleans stinks. Mm-hmm. And maybe they get one in New Orleans. You know, it's possible. I think they only have 4 wins on the season. So we'll see what comes of that. We'll see what Jack makes of where the Raptors are at because it's ugly in terms of the wins and losses, but they're a young team. A lot of their players. Scotty's looked pretty good since he's returned from injury. We'll catch up with Jack in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Nobody cares what people in Pittsburgh say. All right, Pierre LeBrun still to come. Jack Armstrong coming up. Al's brother had a clue yesterday, his first clue, because we've sent him out, Dave, as you know, somewhere in the city with a pair of Leaf tickets. You have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Yesterday's clue was really, I mean, you have no idea where this guy is.
He said he was in the West End.
Right. And I said he was at maybe at that mall that you like so much. And you're a city guy. You understand.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's in the West End. He could be anywhere, I guess.
A lot of card shops out that way.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. He could be at like a card depot or something like that. I don't know where he is.
Card
show.
A lot of options.
Okay, a lot of options. You guys ready for the second clue of the week?
Go nuts.
Hey, OD fans, happy Tuesday to you. Got a set of Leaf tickets to give away when the Blackhawks and Bedsy come to town on Monday, December 2nd. You got to find out where I am, and here is your Tuesday clue to help you along. This place has 100 years of history and was once used as a horse barn.
It's Fort York.
I don't know if that's where he is. I don't know.
Fort York?
Fort York. Why would it be a horse barn?
Dude, I don't know, man.
That was a fort.
I don't know why I said that.
Okay. And I guess
could be.
Would that be like Fort York? I consider that more downtown.
That's hipster central down there.
Yeah, that's downtown. Like I wouldn't consider that the West End. I mean, technically it's west of Yonge Street, but
it's west. It's King West.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that was a go-to spot for like schools. I remember we did a school trip there. One of the more boring trips ever. Like if you're 9 or 10 years old, you're like, I don't care about this at all.
Yeah.
Oh, really? The British?
Thing. Get me the hell out of here.
Oh, it was the worst, man.
Your
like
outfits and your gear and the fake guns. Get lost.
Well, that's what it was, and a lot of it was like cosplay stuff. You know,
Right.
It's like, oh, really? You're you're living in the 1800s. What happens
Yeah.
if I kick you in the shin right now? What happens then? Are you going to stay in,
You're right.
character?
That's a tough gig.
It is a tough gig.
You are living in the past for kids,
Yes.
You know?
Ultimately, for kids like myself.
right? Who don't care.
Exactly. Who I admit was a punk kid that was like, I'm not really into this stuff. But I'm not in school and I'm not in class, so I'll take it. But if you went on like if you'd go on a school trip and it was cold out, remember sometimes you get the short end of the stick where they try to sneak one in late November or something, and you're like, man, it's freezing. We got to be outside all day. And then the teachers are miserable. Everyone's miserable at that point. So, yeah, there you go. Al's brother with another clue. And Find Al's Brothers brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca. You haven't said anything about last night. Al's brother and I picked another winner.
Wow.
We're back up to +3. That was a great pick last night, right,
Wow.
Feschuk? I mean, you've been admiring us from afar, how well we've been seeing the board.
I've been tailing. I've been like,
As you
get
should.
the money down on Al's brother, Hayes and Bro.
Yeah.
These guys are making people mince.
Funny how the tables have turned. Not a lot of Hayes is a fraud comments out there anymore.
Haven't heard it.
Or Al's brother's, a bot or a bot farmer or Geppetto or whatever. Things are moving in our direction, and you guys better figure it out come tomorrow or come Thursday, because we got 3 games on Thursday. Lions, Bears, Giants, Cowboys. Cowboys are like a 3.5-point favorite. They're not sure Tommy DeVito can play now. So Daniel Jones is gone. DeVito may not be playing for the Giants. That spread might get up to 4.5 or 5.
Going to screw up their tanking plan.
It very well could screw up their
Drew Lock.
tanking. And then the night game is Miami versus Green Bay at Lambeau. And if the weather's bad, Tua, this is the biggest game of his career. That's what some people I saw down in Miami. I know
Are the
Levitard,
Finns
others
still
were
in
saying
it?
that. Yeah, they're in it, man. They've won a few in a row. They're absolutely in the race now.
And he's making a big deal about how he wants to reset the narrative that he can't play in cold weather. Well, try Lambeau on a snowy
There's
night.
only one way to do it.
Yeah.
That's right. But they're up to 5 and 6, and they're kind of in it with Denver, who's 7 and 5, and the Chargers are coming back to life. Chargers can't beat good teams.
Now,
What did I tell you about that quarterback, Herbert, man? That's exactly what he does in that game. It was like the blueprint for him in that game. Sorry, but
Well,
that's just the truth.
I don't disagree. It screamed Chargers lose. It screamed Herbert won't be able to outperform Lamar.
Yes.
The drops last night were
Hey.
egregious.
if I'm Herbert, I'm like, hey, Quentin Johnson, what part of your hands do you want it in?
No kidding.
Like what do you like?
He
Seriously,
had 2 right in his
Right in
bread
his hand.
basket.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and
Can't blame the quarterback on that, old dog.
that's a first round pick too, Johnston. Like he's a talent, and he like that one drop coming across the middle of the field. He was going to take that for another 30 or 40 yards. He had no one around him, and he had blockers ahead of him.
I mean, if it wasn't
was
the drops,
crushing.
though, Feschuk, it would have been something else. It's just that's the way that game turns out for Herbert.
Yeah, you're right.
His-
As of
Historically,
the last
that's the
3 or 4
truth.
years.
You're
that is the
100%
truth.
right. You're 100% right, man.
Yeah, that is valid. With the Chargers, they find a way to lose. Jim Harbaugh, that's got to sting, man. He's 0-3 against his big brother.
Oh, man.
And like John's going for it on 4th and 1 from the 19-yard line.
How gutsy was that?
That was a great call.
Oh,
And he put
direct
Mark
snap to the
Andrews
tight
out
end.
there. Tight end.
direct snap to the tight end.
And he barely got over that line.
Oh.
Like he battled for positioning, but it wasn't like he found a hole and sorry, Dave, found 5 or 6 yards. I mean, he barely crossed the line, but I love that type of attitude from John Harbaugh. Where he said, I understand what happens if I miss. I'm handing them the ball on the 19-yard line with 1:50 to go or whatever in the half, and we're in trouble. But I'm a believer in my offense, and I'm a believer in our scheme. And not only did they get it, they punched in 6 and basically turned the whole game around.
Incredible.
Like them scoring that touchdown late in that half,
On a great catch. You talk about catches. That catch by Bateman.
brilliant.
Unreal.
Good throw, but also kind of a prayer. Threw it up there. Bateman spotted it, tracked it, caught it.
Getting
Great throw.
harassed, getting interfered with. Still
Absolutely.
makes the
They
catch.
threw a flag
I
on the
mean,
play.
Just incredible.
It was a brilliant throw by Lamar, but Bateman, you're right. I mean, he's turned around, he goes and finds it. He's being held. Flag on the play. Obviously,
That's the play of the game.
gets-
That changed the game right
yes,
there.
it did. But even that, the Chargers take the kick and go down the field and score a field goal.
Yeah.
which was pretty brilliant 2-minute drill by them as well to put points on the board late. It was a fun game last night. But the Ravens, they win. Lamar does what he does, and the Chargers, they do what they do historically, and they lost the game.
That catch was unreal to watch in real time. It's like he just airmails it up there, and it's like there's just no way in hell that this guy's going to catch it. He comes down with the ball. It's like, come on, dude.
The amazing thing about like the pro football, you see it in the CFL too, but the quarterback with the ability to just say, I have a one-on-one play, I'm throwing it up, and the wide receivers are so good. Like their hands, their ability to turn on a ball.
Yeah, with a guy all over them.
It's brilliant, man.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
Like it's a brilliant athletic performance. Like a just proof of how like talented these guys are. That they can track anything and they can catch almost anything. Unless your name's Quentin Johnston. In which case that's not the case. All right, Pierre coming up, Jack Armstrong coming up, confirm or deny continued. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up. We'll play him a clip of Jerry Jones on radio down in Dallas talking about the future of Mike McCarthy. See how Pierre reacts to that. Pierre's a card-carrying Cowboy fan. So we'll see. We'll play that clip. We'll get to it with Pierre, among other things, including, what's going on with the Leafs. Austin Matthews likely won't play tomorrow, but could. Full participant in practice today. If he doesn't play tomorrow, I think we see a return on Saturday. Speaking of returns, Patrick Laine appears to be on his way back. And there were some people in Montreal kind of buzzing about the lines at practice today. They're playing Utah tonight. Slafkovsky, I think Kirby, Dach, both on the fourth line. Like, that's a pretty big message from Marty St. Louis. Like, those are two prime pieces of the rebuild.
Wow, that's the only thing you can do to young players to say, how much do you hate that? Because they don't hate anything else. They don't hate their money. They don't hate their contract. Not a lot to hate, which is it's a difficult thing to say, and it's a weird way to look at it. But if you don't come up with some creative ideas to make players uncomfortable to get their heads out of their asses, then you're going to be in a bind. So he's searching, and I used to hate watching the coach or the assistant coach coming in on the board, or you would see your jersey color. Like playing on the top line, your jersey color is the same color every time. And if you get the third or fourth line color, I don't know, I would be miserable. And you have to kind of control your emotions because you don't want the guys that you're playing with to see you say like, oh my God, this sucks so bad.
What's always amazing about it is like Slafkovsky and Dach are down there. And it's like they're on the fourth line, and they're playing with a guy who's permanently on the fourth line. Yeah. Right. What's the message
But
to
they're
him?
only on the fourth line if their ice time details that. If you just want to write that on a board and send that message through the media that that's what it looks like in the locker room, and you still play the same amount, like you're on the fourth line when you play a couple minutes a period. That's when you're on the fourth line.
That's right.
So are they going to get that treatment? Because, I don't know, I'm disappointed in that Slafkovsky. I thought he took a turn last year where it was this guy's going to be a big power forward, and he's going to be all around the net. And there was some times I've watched, and go ahead and come at me, Montreal fans, but he hasn't looked very good.
No, listen, I don't think you'll get any pushback from Habs fans. There's a reason he's in the position he is. He's not playing well. He's played soft. He's not putting up offensive production. Last year, you're right, man. Down the stretch, the second half, he was a dominant force.
Yes.
Like, they teamed up. It was Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and St. Louis was like, you're playing in every situation. You're playing a ton. And they really played well. And he's a beast. He can skate. He has offensive ability. He's just got to perform. Like, he's got to do it, and he hasn't done it well enough. And I don't think Habs fans are going to be bent out of shape with that assessment. That's just pure accuracy based on what's happening. And if you got a problem, go talk to Marty St. Louis. He's the one that's saying this guy's not playing well enough.
Yeah.
And they're not taking him out of the lineup. They're just sending a bit of a message. And to your point, we'll see how long it actually lasts. Where if by the second period he's back playing PP1 and all that. Because if you're on the fourth line, you're not probably playing power play. If there's a draw in the offensive zone and, a good matchup comes out, you're coming off the ice. Like, that will be a true determining factor of whether or not Marty St. Louis is buying into that.
You got to do something to show the coach that you don't like it. Like, I remember coming back from a shoulder. It was some kind of problem I had. My first game back was in Tampa Bay. And for some reason, Paul Maurice just started me on a line where I'm like, are you serious, man? First period, I get a goal on that line, and he's like, okay, there you go. Thank you for the nugget. Now you get your little nugget back, and you go back with the guys you play with. So to be down there, you have to show the coach something to prove to him that you don't like it. Either performance or aggressiveness or something. Because if you just go out there and you welcome it and you mope and you just piss around out there, then you're going to have some real problems on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your next play might be taking your gear off and going up in the press box.
Well, look, I'm all for putting it on the players, dog, but I got news for you, man. Like, when I watch that team play, I can't help but put it on the coach. Like, I don't understand what kind of structure they're playing with because there doesn't seem to be one too many times when I'm watching them. And I don't know what the justification for that is. I've heard Marty St. Louis say we want to play this way because this is the way we want to play when we're a competing team, but you're not a competing team.
No, they're not even close.
You're a developmental team, and whatever kind of structure you're trying to push on these kids, they're not getting it.
Their details defensively it's some of the worst in the league. I mean,
I don't know why anyone would ever say that we want to do this because this is what we want to be. You have to say, we have to clog things up and try to win games 2 and 3-1, and we don't want to give up a whole lot because we're not that gifted offensively. That's their only chance to win. Any other approach would be nonsense, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, and what if you don't have the right guys to play that system you think is going to work in the future?
Dude, do you know how many times
might not
I've
have the
said
right
that?
players.
All these teams rebuild. We got all these guys. Maybe they're just not the right guys.
Well, that's the truth. Hour 3 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.